Hello, I'm Kaiser and welcome to Moose Reads. Before I get started, I want to say that the opinions that I give here are my own opinions. They are extremely subjective. If I dislike a book, it is not a reflection on the author, and it is not a reflection on people who do like it. Different people have different tastes, and that's okay. Today, I will be reviewing A Lady for a Duke by Alexis Hall. This is a queer Regency romance. The description says, when Viola Carroll was presumed dead at Waterloo, she took the opportunity to live, at last, as herself. But freedom does not come without a price, and Viola paid for hers with the loss of her wealth, her title, and her closest companion, Justin de Vere, the Duke of Gracewood. Only when their families reconnect, years after the war, does Viola learn how deep that loss truly was. Shattered without her, Gracewood has retreated so far into grief that Viola barely recognizes her old friend in the lonely, brooding man he has become. As Viola strives to bring Gracewood back to himself, fresh desires give new names to old feelings. Feelings that would have been impossible once, and may be impossible still, but which Viola cannot deny. Even if they cost her everything all over again. 5 stars. This is another book where I don't have much to say, and probably just about all of it will be in the spoiler section. I really enjoyed reading this. It was a good Regency romance with a unique premise. This book does lean hard into the fantasy aspect of romances. Not in the dragons way, but in the I wish life were like this way. Viola is a trans woman in the 1800s, and she faces almost no bigotry from any of the people that matter. Or really anyone, as she's successfully passing by the time this story begins. So if you're looking for a realistic exploration of what it would have been like to be a trans woman in Regency England, you're reading the wrong genre, honestly. But this book especially is not for you. Since I'm of the opinion that fantasy is largely the point of romance, though, I noted the lack of realism, but happily suspended my disbelief. I think that's all I can say without spoilers. If you don't like spoilers, now is the time to pause or close the video. For everyone else, let's talk details. I was quite surprised to find that what I expected to be the third act twist came in the first act. But then, I guess it would have been difficult to keep this setup going for much longer without getting tedious. I was also surprised by how much of this book centered around Gracewood's sister and her romantic troubles. Once Gracewood recognized Viola and got over the initial shock, the book was largely treading water while Viola got out of her own way, so they needed something to be doing in the meantime. Miranda's first season was the backdrop Hall chose. The major downside of putting so much of the plot on Miranda, though, is that it feels like something is missing when we end without any real resolution for her. She's saved from social ruin, but a lot of the questions she'd been asking up to that point just don't get answered. Usually I would expect this to be resolved in a sequel, but as far as I know, Hall has no plans to that end. I did, however, really enjoy the epilogue of this book. We flash forward quite a few years in the perspective of the oldest of the couple's adopted children, the future Duke of Gracewood. In a lot of books, this future with children sort of epilogue doesn't really work, but because the question of children and legacy is important to both Viola and Gracewood, it works here. The downside of the epilogue is that I'd honestly like to read a Regency romance about a character like Jack, who is the adopted son of a duke, and what that means for him, and I don't know of any. If you do, let me know in the comments. It is, in fact, one of the plots my brain occasionally plays with, but not one I will ever actually write. Anyway, that's all I have to say about A Lady for a Duke. If you like this video, I hope you'll watch more in the future. Thanks for watching this one. Bye!